Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Dani Kenney, founder of Dani Kenney Coaching, which is an international women empowerment community. And I'm a coach dedicated to helping you learn how to master your energy and your mindset so you can make more money, make a bigger impact, create not only a business, but a whole big, beautiful life that you love. There are so many things that I am deeply passionate about. And one of those things is mindset. If you've hung out inside of any of my communities, any of my spaces, my paid programs, my social medias, I talk a lot about mindset, the power of our mind. You may have heard me say that I believe our mind is either our greatest asset, or not to be too doom and gloom, but it can also be our worst enemy. And the thing that's going to make the difference is the way that you learn to think and the way that you train your mind. I often, if I'm going to speak to a group of people, I will ask them, and we have our live audience here, so you can tune in. If you're not tuning in live, you can just take a guess here. But I always like to ask how many decisions, there's actual research that goes into this. How many decisions do you think the average person makes per day? If you could guess, maybe you know because you've heard me say this, but if you could guess, go ahead and let me know what you think or take a mental snapshot. If you guessed 10,000, you're way off. You're way off. Research shows that the average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. And I know that sounds insane. One of the comments just came through. Ashley said, too many. You are correct. And that is the average person. And what I know for sure is that I am not average. And the women, the incredible souls that I attract to the different places and spaces that I show up and that I've created and that I love so much, none of us are average. If you are listening to this, you are not average. You are extraordinary. You are very likely a highly driven individual. You care about impact. You may be a business owner. If you're not a business owner, you sure as heck are a leader. You're a leader in your workplace. You're a leader in your home. You may be a mother, a partner, right? And so when you take in all those other factors, I like to say that we probably make actually closer to 50,000 decisions a day. And so this is one of the reasons why I believe so deeply in the power of mindset work. And mindset work isn't the end all be all. There's so many different things that we could dig into that are going to propel us into who it is that we're meant to be, what it is that we desire, and understanding how to train our minds is one important piece of that. So today we're going to be talking about a few what I'm calling either unexpected or highly underrated mindset tools and shifts. So this may be an episode where if you don't have a notebook, you're probably going to want to grab one. Okay. So, and I don't have these listed in any order of importance. I think they're all really important. It was just kind of like as things were coming to me, I was listing them out. So we're going to go through the list. The very first one, I feel like this is probably more on the underrated, not so much unexpected, but underrated. And you would be surprised at how often, like I've been doing this work for over a decade and I have to check myself with this. I catch myself, I will take back certain words and then speak new words into existence. I am surrounded by the most amazing people in the world, and I will catch them doing this. So the very first one I want you to keep in mind is understanding the power of the word I, and then when we group that with am. So the most powerful and impactful words you will ever say are whatever you say that follows I or I am. And again, I get to work with the most extraordinary humans and they understand the power of mindset work. And many of them are trained, but I will hear them say things like, I'm really tired all of the time. No matter what I do, I just can't seem to figure it out. Or I'm stuck. I'm overwhelmed. And I know that as I'm saying those things out loud, you might be nodding your head like, Dani, I can relate to one or all of those statements. But the reason this is so important is because when we say things like, I am overwhelmed, I am stuck, I am struggling, we unconsciously reinforce that story. So I'm not saying lie. I'm not saying don't tell the truth or be in denial. But I want to encourage you to be extremely mindful of how you say those things out loud. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, you can say things like, I have been experiencing overwhelm. So you're taking that emotion and instead of identifying it and embodying it, you're distancing yourself from it. You're acknowledging that that has been part of your experience. You can also say things. One thing that I relate to deeply, and I catch myself, and many of you can probably relate to this, things like people pleasing. I don't call myself a people pleaser anymore. People pleasing has been a very big part of my life experience and my past. And so I will say things like, I have experienced, or just like I said it right now with you, I have a past. Like in the past, I was overwhelmed. In the past, I was struggling with things like people pleasing. And so what that does is the moment you're able to create a little bit of distance, you can name it, you can honor it, it's valid. But the minute you're able to dissect and pull apart the identity piece, when you say I, you're identifying as something, you're able to pull that apart. That then creates space, a spaciousness for you to create a brand new experience. So this feels really big. And again, it's one of those things where you don't always notice it, but I want to invite you to start catching yourself. When you start to say, I, notice what comes after that. And if what comes after that is not aligned and it's not supportive with what you're wanting to create, say it differently. I feel like it's not a social norm to say something and then to say like, hold on. Let me say that differently. But if you hang out in my spaces, I actually do that. I will say, oh, wait. Let me come up with a more empowering way or a way that's actually going to affirm the experience that I'm committed to creating. So this first one, again, is just understanding how to embrace the power of the word I and I am and noticing what comes after that. I want to see if there was any other thoughts that I had with this, just being really mindful of that. Oh, one other fun thing is I love words and I'll never forget many, many years ago, I was in some sort of mindset training. And you know, when a magician would wave their magic wand and they would say abracadabra, you know what? Everybody has heard abracadabra. Abracadabra translated means as I speak, I create. And I'll never forget, I was blown away at that because it's literally saying that your words are magic. And I think sometimes we forget that our words, the ones that we speak aloud, but also the ones that we speak to ourselves, are way more powerful than we realize most of the time. So that was number one. This other one, so this is going to be maybe more in the realm of, because today we're talking about unexpected or underrated mindset shifts, one or the other or both. I love teaching the concept of what if. So the interesting thing about this is often when we think about what ifs, just notice how you feel when you hear those words, or notice if you ever speak them out loud. Again, coming back to the power of words. Oftentimes it's worst case scenario. Well, what if I do this and it doesn't work? What if I do this and I fail? What if I do this and everybody laughs at me? What if I do this and I realize that I'm not actually qualified or I don't know what I'm doing, right? So often when we hear what if, it's this negative, I don't love using labels, but it's this negative, like downward spiral. And it's a way for us to talk ourselves out of doing things. So I'm inviting you to cultivate what I call a what if mindset. And you might be thinking to yourself, Dani, well, you just said that what if is typically creating this downward spiral, and it can. But this is where we come back to the power of choice and the power of you remembering how much of a role you play in creating your reality. I love the connection between these two because, again, this is not about toxic positivity. This is not about denying your very real human experience. I think there's some stuff out there in the personal and professional development space, in the healing space, that is actually dangerous, where it has us spiritual bypassing, where it has us kind of putting Band-Aids over what's really going on in our lives. So that is not something you will ever see me teach or preach. So I just want to make that crystal clear. But my perspective is, if you're going to allow your mind to entertain the worst case scenarios, the failures, and again, I'm not saying don't do that. You probably can't. You can't not do that. It's what the human mind is going to do. But I always say that if you're going to entertain the fears and the worries and the worst case scenario, if you're going to play devil's advocate, you owe it to yourself to look at the other side, to look at the flip side of that coin. So what I mean is, I want you to start looking at, like, the next time you're feeling a little bit nervous, you're feeling scared, you're putting yourself out there, you're doing something vulnerable, you're going to try something new. I want you to use the flip side of what if, which can look like, what if everything goes right? What if this is the exact thing I've been waiting for? What if this is the exact thing that has been waiting for me? What if I'm the exact right person to bring this to life? What if this ends up being a huge success? What if this leads me that much closer to my dreams? What if this is exactly what I need? I think you're getting the gist of it there. So I want to encourage you to play with that, because the fear is undeniable. Now, I've never had yet conversations with huge positive figures, like Tony Robbins. He's got to be the most famous life coach of all the life coaches. And I love me some Oprah Winfrey. I've been a big fan of Oprah for as long as I can remember. And these people, the Tonys and the Oprahs of the world, are out there doing big things, taking big risks. I would imagine that even they experienced fear to some extent. I don't think that there's any human being on the planet that doesn't experience fear, but they've just found ways to move through it. And this cultivating not only a what if mindset, but a positive what if mindset is one really powerful tool to move through fear. But where I was going with that is, when I share this concept with people, like, we can go down the fear path, we can acknowledge that, and then we're going to come right back and we're going to look at the other side of that. We're going to look at the ultimate success. I once heard someone else in kind of the spiritual healing space recommend setting, this feels really, really, really unexpected, what I'm about to invite you to do. But if you're somebody who finds that you're stuck and stopped by fear a lot, like a lot. I definitely personally experience fear, but I feel like because I've been doing this for so long, I can coach myself to move through it quickly. But if you're somebody who, like, on a daily basis, all day, every day, fear is creeping in, she recommended setting a timer every day, and actually at the beginning of the day, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, and dive into your fear. Write about it. Write about all the things you're afraid of. And then once that timer goes off, you're done dancing with fear for the day. You gave fear a voice. You gave it an opportunity to be seen, to be heard. You looked at it. That's a tool that I will often share with. That's like a bonus one. Whenever I talk about the what ifs, I always like to say, don't pretend the fear's not there. Make room for it. Dance with it. But we're going to have a hard boundary. Okay, fear, we saw ya. We heard ya, and now we're moving on. Oh, this one is so big. This one is absolutely life-changing. And this is the idea of, and it feels edgy to say this, it's important. I don't know why it feels edgy, but it's this concept of radical responsibility. Radical responsibility. The reason it feels edgy to share this is because I do think that there are some really kind of toxic nuances to not traditional, new age new age. And I'm not saying that like all of it is bad, but things with manifesting and really kind of surface level, The Secret and law of attraction, I have a problem with some of it around every single thing in your life is your fault. Like, I do believe that there is a distinction with situations people were born into, situations, especially children, that they find themselves in, not to have this be too heavy, but certain trauma, certain circumstances. I do believe that there are things that happen that are completely out of our control. I am a 37-year-old woman, and I understand the power that I have. I understand. I even little slip earlier, I said, we're all human beings. I don't actually believe we're human beings. It's not even a belief to me, it's a divine truth. We're not human beings. We're spiritual beings, first and foremost, who are having a very temporary human experience. And I get the pieces that every part of my past played a role. But now coming back to radical responsibility, I have a choice. I have a lot of choices. I believe that you have choices. And I believe that there are actually a lot of things that are in our control. It doesn't matter if you're 3 years old or 30 years old or 100 years old. Life is going to life. Things are going to be out of your control. You still get to choose who you're going to be in the face of that. One of my favorite questions is, what am I choosing today? Who am I choosing to be in the rainbows and butterflies seasons of life, and also in the depths and in the darkness? Where can I find the power? Where can I remember my power? So there is something so life-changing about coming to terms with this concept of radical responsibility and the bigness and the power and the role that you play in your life. When you understand that and you're literally taking your power back and you're not pointing fingers, you're not pointing blame, you're not outsourcing and saying, well, it's their fault, well, that thing happened and da-da-da. It's really easy to want to do that, right? And I have my moments. I have my human moments where I do that. But radical responsibility, understanding this will literally change everything for you. Change everything. This next one, this is number 4. This is something that I talk about often in the spaces I'm in. So we're on unexpected and or underrated. This is going to be more of an underrated. When you hear me say this, you're going to kind of expect me to say this, but I really want you to remember the power of who you're becoming. And the fact that the version of you that you're becoming, your future self, your highest self, your favorite self, whatever you want to call it, she exists within you now. So again, this kind of ties back to number 1, when I had said your mind is either going to be your greatest asset and your best friend, or it's going to be your worst enemy. There's this formula that I like to teach, really high level here. I did not create this. I first heard about this formula. I'll tell it to you in just a second, but a book I was reading called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. If you're looking for a really great money mindset book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker is a great place to start. It is written in a way, it's very conversational, powerful, so many amazing tools, but it's very easy to digest versus something that's I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love watching his videos. I have a ton of his books, but I try to read his books and I have to read the same sentence 10 times because the concepts are so big and they feel very highly intellectual. Sometimes you're reading a college textbook. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is not like that, but I'm sharing this with you because Secrets of the Millionaire Mind was written, I think, in the 1980s. So this formula has been around for a really long time. And I'm going to make a tweak to this. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write down the letters T, S, A, R. So T represents our thoughts and beliefs. S represents our feelings and our emotions. A represents actions. And R represents results. And the reason I love this is because it demonstrates, first and foremost, that anything that we create in our external, our 3D reality, begins first as an internal blueprint. So it's a reminder of, if you want to create change, coming back to your head and your heart space is going to be the best, honestly, quickest and most effective way to do that. You could, of course, move things around in your home, do things differently, like set up your day differently, implement new habits. I'm not knocking any of that. That's all really powerful. But if you don't first address what is happening within your mind and your heart posture, then all of those external changes are not sustainable. That's like why we create, or why we experience the yo-yo effect. If you guys have ever gone about making positive change and things are working and things are working and things are working, and then all of a sudden you slip back and you're like, I'm back to where I started. It's very likely because you didn't address who you were being. You were only making changes. And I'm like saying, I do this too. I do this too. I'm not exempt from this. But you were only making changes outside of you. So again, we're on number 4, which is remembering the power of who you're becoming and essentially your future self. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I have seen, and I've read books, I've seen T. Harv Eker talk about this. I've seen Tony Robbins talk about this. I've seen Martha Beck talk about this. I've seen Brooke Castillo. The people I'm naming right now, fam, are the biggest names in the coaching industry. You may be familiar with some of them. If you're not, that's okay. But these are leaders in the industry. And there's one important thing missing. There's one important thing missing. And it's what triggers the thoughts and beliefs, feelings and emotions that then create our actions and results. It's one of 2 things, and you get to choose. Most people who are on autopilot, fam, and this is why a lot of people find themselves stuck in mediocrity and stuck, I think I might have said it, I don't know if I said it out loud or in my head, but on autopilot, a lot of people are living on autopilot, is because it's their past and their current set of circumstances that are creating this thoughts and beliefs, like the mental chatter, the current energetic and emotional state, which is creating the same actions or lack of actions and the same results or lack of results. And then what happens is most people spend their entire lives unconsciously being stuck or recreating what and this is not a bad thing, but recreating what their mother did and what their grandmother did and then cursing it, right? A lot of people, especially like at this kind of middle, like quarter of a century to century age, I feel like I work with a lot of people in the 30s to 50s. They start to become the people who came before them, which is a blessing, but also taking on the things that they don't like. And it's like, how did I end up here? How did I end up with these characteristics? And it's because you didn't choose to be led by something else. So if you are going to create new results, you can't do that from your past or your current set of circumstances. You have to do that by connecting to your future. So that's why embracing and spending time with and getting really clear on who are you becoming? What is it that you want? Where are you going? And starting to be able to feel that version of you in your body is really powerful, because if you are able to do that, then you can close your eyes and you can say, when you're faced with a choice or a decision, no matter how big or how small, you can start to attune to, what would that version of me choose? And that is what is going to continually propel you forward in a really powerful way. And the more you practice this, the easier it gets. It becomes second nature, and it will literally create an entirely different life experience for you. Okay. So I love this. I have some examples here. When you're making a business decision, just like I said, asking yourself, what would my future self choose? When you are faced with something inside of a relationship, it's, how would my future self handle this? Right? An old version of you might fly off the handle, might get defensive, might throw something, I don't know. But maybe this version of you takes a moment to pause and realizes that everything is a mirror, and realizes that when someone is interacting with you, it actually has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them, right? So this is game changing. Game changing. If we can just pause and attune to, what would my future self do? Okay. And maybe you have a hard time connecting with future self. As I don't think it sounds cheesy. Somebody listening might roll their eyes. Hopefully you're not. But what would love do? What would love do is one of my favorite questions. It really puts things in perspective. Yes. So good. So good. Okay. We've got two more here. This next one, I feel like we're gonna put this one in unexpected. So can you even call yourself a coach, a life coach, if you don't talk about the power of gratitude? I feel like we talk about it until we're blue in the face. I feel like we talk about it where sometimes the power of it gets diluted. Please don't let that happen. I once heard someone say that gratitude is the highest form of receivership. So if you're wanting to open your heart up, if you're wanting to receive more love, more abundance, more joy, more intimacy, more of anything, the number one and the fastest way to do that, I'm probably blowing your eardrums out because I'm shouting and I'm close to the microphone. It is through gratitude. It is through gratitude. So I'm going to give you something really fun that I do here. So I highly recommend having some sort of a daily gratitude practice. I really believe in the power of literally just in a journal. It could be a blank journal. You don't have to go get like a fancy gratitude journal. By all means, if you want to go do that, I'm not going to stop you. You could have a blank piece of paper and just every day you're writing things that you're grateful for. It might even be more simple than that. Like each day you wake up and you look around your space and you just mentally let your mind land on things you're grateful for. And then you feel that's important. You feel that gratitude in your body. So there's that. But what I want to do is I want to take the future self that we just talked about and gratitude and something that I love to do that I don't really ever hear a lot of people talking about is playing with a future gratitude practice. I have this really cool thing that I share with women who are inside of my program called Energy Expansion Academy. And it is our grand rising expansion activation. It's 9 minutes and 50 seconds of just pure gold. So good. And there's a journaling prompt that I walk them through where I invite them to jot down, to grab a journal and to write down a few things that are a part of their reality right now that like currently exist that they're grateful for. And then I invite them to choose one or two things that are not actually part of their current reality, things that they want to manifest, and to start writing those things out in like through the lens of gratitude as if they've already happened. That's really, really powerful. So I believe that finding and acknowledging and celebrating what you're grateful for now that is real, that is 3D, that is like part of your reality is powerful, but also thinking about those big dreamy things and expressing gratitude for them now. What that does is it starts to train your mind and your psyche to look at those desires and those accomplished goals as inevitable. Because you're already grateful for them. You're calling them in. You know that they are undoubtedly a part of your reality. So engaging in some sort of a future gratitude practice. And then the last one that I want to share, and we're going to group this in the category of underrated, is I'm going to call it micro moments. I think that sometimes, and I've actually gotten swept up in the trap of feeling like my healing and my growth and my expansion journey must look a certain way, or that I have to have, a 45-minute morning routine. And don't get me wrong, when I have a 45 to 60-minute morning routine, I'm really happy. I love it. But I'm in a season of life right now where I just don't feel like that's realistic. If you don't know this, I've got 3 kiddos. We recently moved. One of my kiddos is 2.5. He still sleeps in the bed with me and my husband. We're trying to transition him out. The minute I wake up, he wakes up. So it's all kinds of chaos, but it's sweet chaos and it's not forever. So I'm going to love it. And so where I'm going with this is I want to just lovingly remind you that healing and growth and expansion and integration can happen in micro moments. I feel like some of the tools that I use, like literally if I'm feeling overwhelmed, just 60 seconds, not 60 minutes, 60 seconds of like, stop what I'm doing. Because I've done this like I'll do this in the grocery store, out in public. I often do it at home, like in the kitchen or in common areas when it feels like it's chaotic. Stop and pause, For me, closing my eyes is a really helpful way to just temporarily disconnect from the noise and the chaos and go inward. Close my eyes. I'm a big fan of like hand over heart, few deep breaths, just recentering myself. If I'm feeling stressed out, then maybe I'll focus on the word calm and I'll breathe in the word peace. I'll breathe in the word calm. And if you're not already leveraging these micro moments, you would be so surprised and delighted at how effective these are. You can make leaps and bounds on your journey of healing and growth and becoming and expansion in a few micro moments a day. It's so simple. And I believe this. I think that sometimes our mind, again, this is when our mind can be not our BFF. This is where our mind can be our worst enemy. I find that a lot of these really powerful tools, these life-changing tools, are ridiculously simple. Not always easy. There's a difference between simple and easy, right? Not the same. But I think that sometimes our mind, if something is too simple, our mind convinces us that can't possibly work. Dani, there's no way that I can take 60 seconds, take a breath, and really experience that much of a difference. But you can. You can. And so notice when your mind tries to convince you, if it's only 60 seconds, it can't be that powerful. It can't really actually make that big of a difference. So I'm just not going to do it. Notice when that happens. And I want to invite you, we've used the word choice a lot today. Remembering your power, I want to invite you to choose something different. Try something new. So that's what I got for you today, fam. Let's just do a really quick recap. We went over, come back up here, get my outline going so I don't miss anything. Today we talked about 6, I think we did 6, either unexpected and or underrated mindset tools and shifts. The first one is remembering the power of your words. Remember, abracadabra, as I speak, I create. And not just the power, all your words are powerful, but the most powerful words you'll ever speak are the words I am and whatever comes after that, because that's essentially the story that you're choosing to tell about yourself. Okay. Number 2 is cultivating a what if mindset. And not just the what if mindset of like going down worst case scenarios, but allowing yourself to spiral right back up and play with what if the dreamiest solution happens, and journal about that. Think about that. Let yourself really go big in the realm of the what if. Number 3 is radical responsibility and radical acceptance. These are all really powerful, fam, but if I could only teach on one today, just one that I felt would be, remember I said there wasn't one that was more important than the other. I feel like it's radical responsibility. That is going to be the biggest game changer. These are all so powerful, but that would be the one. Number 4 is remembering the power of who you're becoming, your future self, and then letting her guide you, letting her lead inside of Energy Expansion Academy. We've got the mantra, let her lead. We're probably all going to get tattoos of that before the end of this year. I heard we're all game. We're all game. Number 5 is not just any old gratitude practice, but if you've got any old gratitude practice, that's really great. But fusing your future self and gratitude and starting to think about what you're creating, what it is that you want, and writing it out as if it's here now in gratitude statements and embodying, feeling what it would feel like to have that now. That creates, like, now what we're doing is we're talking about quantum physics. We're talking about the truest kind of magnetism and manifestation. If you can feel it, you can have it. One of my favorite mentors, she's honestly one of my favorite people to learn from in the entire world. Her name is Victoria Washington. I'm in her membership. It's called the House of We, and We is an acronym for wealth embodiment. And she says, when you can feel it all, you can have it all. I love that. And the last one here is these micro moments. And remembering that, especially if you are a busy mama, a busy leader, a busy anything, I have a feeling I attract a lot of people in my life who don't have, and specifically into my world here, who don't have an unlimited amount of free time and space. There will be a day when I have that, and I don't think that day is going to be anytime soon. And that's okay because I rely on these micro moments. The healing, the integration, the growth, and the expansion can happen in a few breaths, in a minute or less. So don't underestimate the power of that. So I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. I hope that you found these valuable. I would really love for you to reach out. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I was going to say all the social medias. I'm not on all the social medias. There's a lot of social medias out there, but the two that I hang out the most is Instagram and Facebook. Let me know what your favorite, either unexpected or underrated mindset shift was today. I'll see you next time.